Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode installment of our virtual book tour, Non-Negotiable Self-Care. We are elated and excited as we bring this virtual book tour to a close tonight. We're going to be discussing the self-care core four. We're going to be discussing the self-care core four, and we have two great guests that are going to be with us tonight who are going to be sharing about these items concerning the self-care core four. Please like, share with other people. Those of you that are watching through FaceTime as well as YouTube, we are very grateful for the guest that's going to come with us to share and to talk. But typically, as usual, let's talk about, what we are referring to when we mention self-care. When we talk about self-care, we understand that it is the practice of taking action to preserve one's own health and wellness. Self-care means taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness. In particular, self-care is referring to the practice of tuning into one's own emotional intelligence and expressing oneself as an essential form of self-care. And finally, we know that self care is the practice of giving ourselves the same grace and compassion that we give to other people. All right. So, without further ado, we're going to move forward to start to bring our guest in. First, we want to introduce Dr. Sterling Watson, who's going to come and join us in a second. He's a licensed psychologist, educator, and ordained elder whose calling is to build and encourage young men and women in the healing work to improve the quality of their lives. He's earned his PsyD in clinical psychology at Wright State University School of Professional Psychology in 2003 and is a proud graduate of Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio. Dr. Watson's interests include diversity and multicultural issues, African American psychology, spirituality, and psychotherapy and family, couples, and marital counseling. He has held numerous roles and capacities on various boards and networks throughout South Carolina. His current leadership role involves in his local church as the chair for health and wellness to serve and promote well-being and holistic care across the sphere of human wellness. Dr. Watson also serves in the youth and emerging adulthood ministry. He is the assistant director of training, psychotherapist, and counseling and psychiatry at the University of South Carolina, teaches courses for the psychology department when requested, and supports TRIO Opportunity Scholars and Honors College programs. There's a number of things that we can say about Dr. Watson concerning his bio, but we'll pause there and we'll bring him in at this point. So, Dr. Watson, we want to thank you for coming with us tonight to talk and to share. Thank you, sir.
Can you hear me, Dion?
We can hear you clearly.
Awesome.
Awesome. Is there anything that you would like to share with our listening audience that we didn't mention yet that you think is beneficial?
No, Dion, I think you did a tangible job of introducing me. I think that maybe I had a lot or too much in the bio. But yeah, I wear a lot of different hats. I've been doing a lot of different things over the course of my very young career. And so I'm just thankful for the opportunity to fellowship with you and talk about self-care, man. I appreciate your book. I appreciate the text. I think it is well written and straightforward and helps us to really rethink self-care. And so I'm just excited to see what you do with this and where this goes. And hopefully people will begin to understand how non-negotiable self-care really is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So at this point, we also have another guest who we're going to bring in, Mr. Pernell M.J. Bush. He's a licensed psychotherapist, inspirational speaker, U.S. Marine veteran, award-winning social entrepreneur. Pernell Bush is on a mission to edify, nourish, and empower the mental health wellness of the communities he serves. Pernell has more than a decade of experience in the mental health sector as a practitioner and advocate. Purnell is the managing partner of Knowledge Empowers You, Key Counseling Solutions, and the president/CEO of No Limit Health and Education Incorporated, a 501c3 organization that focuses on promoting mental health wellness in underserved communities and populations through services, programs, outreach, and advocacy. So without further ado, we're going to bring in Mr. Purnell Bush. Welcome, sir.
What's happening? What's happening, man? I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. I am grateful to have both of you here with this final installment for our virtual book tour. I'm glad that your schedules allowed you both to be present. I think you two are the best people that I'm connected to talk about this subject for a variety of reasons, which we'll get into a little further as we go forward. So, all right, we're just going to go ahead and dive on in. So I guess when we talk about self-care and non-negotiable self-care, when I was writing the book, I did take some careful time to figure out what I wanted to address in the subject areas and the chapters and et cetera. And was gratefully surprised that the first book, being a amateur author, became a bestseller in 10 categories. So I'm grateful that it's helping and ministering and reaching a lot of people in a lot of different areas. For you both, when you think of the phrase self-care, I'm curious what typically, and I know that you both actively do engage in various forms of self-care, but what typically comes to your mind in general when you think of the phrase self-care?
Definitely. I guess for me, it's self-care is like what part of me needs to be cared for at this moment, right? Oftentimes self-care it can look very, very different for whatever timeline of life that we are in for ourselves. So what I mean by that, for me, some days my self-care may be in the gym. Other days my self-care may be out riding horses or hunting. Other days my self-care may be, getting a massage. So, self-care looks so different for what parts of me needs to be refilled and paid attention to.
Okay, I like that. I definitely like that. It sounds like, Purnell, it sounds like you have a self-care toolbox that you tend to draw from.
Something like that. I normally call it the intersectionality of healing, right? When you think about the traditional type of thought process, intersectionality, but I call it the intersectionality of healing because it's so much of us that make up of us as individuals, and each part of us needs something different. Right. And oftentimes when we're not, if we're not truly listening to ourselves, we could be doing the same thing, thinking we're actively engaging in self-care, but it may not be what you may need in this time period of your life. Oh, bad, Dr. Sterling.
No, brother Purnell, man, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. And I love the way that you articulated it. I think that when I heard the term, the first thing that pops in my mind being a clinician is intervention. I don't know that pops in my head, and you just kind of labeled, exactly how to intervene in various elements of our life or, or our experience. And so, right, if it's, I need an intervention physically, I might do some running or go to the gym. If I need an intervention, let's say, mentally, I might take a time out to just pause and relax and maybe do some meditation or listen to some music or something like that. Or maybe, I might decide to do something creative, whatever that may be. Artistically, maybe that is something in the kitchen, cooking some good food, some healthy food, or, folks would trip out on me about the kind of healthy food that I might cook every now and then. But I think that you hit the nail on the head. It depends on, exactly what part of us, that we're trying to speak to. And that means that we have to, get to know ourselves a little bit more intimately to meet the need of that self-care tool, if you will, when we need it. Yeah.
Okay. I get it. Yeah.
Thank you. It's good stuff. Very good. Very good. Just various types of self-care depending upon what the needs are. Sure. I'm wondering, concerning like, and we'll get into some more detail as we go along, concerning like core items, do we think or believe that there are potentially a particular set of core items or areas that are essential to an individual taking care of themselves as far as their own health journey?
When you say core items, that's very subjective, right? And when I work with my clients, I tell them you have to look at you, because a lot of times we attempt to mimic what we see others doing and say, oh, well, this person does this for self-care, I'm going to do it too. So oftentimes I have my clients to sit still, and we have to really locate what is your, core item for self-care. So that's where it's very subjective when it comes to what your core item of self-care may be.
Yeah, I agree. I think self-care, because it's such a robust concept, each individual might enter into self-care in various different ways. When we think about it, let's say from a cultural perspective, there may be variances across culture with regards to how people think about self-care or how they even engage in it, or if we think about it cross-gender, there may be some things that our sisters do, that our women do that, men may not do, engaging in self-care, or may not have learned how to do just yet in engaging in self-care. And so I think that, it is objective, but it does provide folks with the opportunity to kind of try different things, to see what works better.
Okay, we got a few comments in, or someone's clapping, and then Corey George says self-abandonment learned from perceived abandonment from caregivers can also foster a lack of self-care in adulthood. Yeah. Good. Yeah. That is true. Very true. And to our listening audience, as you're coming in and tuning in, feel free to pose a question or comment in the chat box. We'll see it as it comes forward. Now, considering all of that, sometimes when people are trying to address their own self-care, there's some things that can get in the way, some challenges, some difficulties, some obstructions, etc. I'm wondering, what are some things that may become barriers for people potentially in addressing their own self-care, whatever that looks like per person? What are some things we think could become barriers for people?
Not scheduling yourself, right? We schedule everything, but sometimes we don't schedule ourselves. So by the time we look up, we feel like we don't have enough time in the week because we haven't made ourselves a priority and put ourselves on the schedule. When I tell clients this or individuals this, it sounds so unsexy. Or if I say, hey, schedule yourself or schedule couples time or schedule this, they be like, schedule? I'm like, yes, schedule yourself, because everything else that's important to you is on your calendar. So put you on your calendar.
Brother Corey in the chat, and I can't see it now, but I think that he just highlighted something that is relatively deep with regards to how we begin to organize and how we begin to think about self-care. And so he talked about this concept of self-abandonment, whether real or perceived, that, kind of emerges out of our childhood experiences. And, as I read that, the thought that came to mind is how we learn how to subjugate ourselves for the purposes of making sure that everybody else's needs are cared for or taken care of, and kind of how we learn that. And even as a culture, we learn how to be more present with others, just like, what Brother Purnell just said. We don't schedule time for ourselves. And so we learn how to stay busy and stay, focused on the care of our families, our friends. We may even do that to the degree, that we forget that, we deserve the same kind of care and self-compassion, to meet our own needs. And so we can get mired in that process. And often it's reinforced because, if I'm taking care of somebody else's needs and they feel good about their needs getting met, and then, we feel good about their needs getting met, then we become reinforced to then meet their needs and then forget about meeting our own needs. And so it becomes this kind of perpetual cycle that, can play a role in us limiting ourselves and engaging in appropriate self-care. The last thing that I'll say about that, is that when we begin to subjugate ourselves or self-sacrifice ourselves for other people, sometimes the reinforcement of that is also something that is instilled in us, from a young age, that, we are to put others first.
Mm-hmm.
But, as we all know, and we've probably heard, in our therapist backgrounds that, the old metaphor or analogy of being on an airplane, and that mask coming down, the first thing they tell us is to put the mask on ourselves before we put it on others. And so I think that the important thing about what Brother Corey kind of talked about in his post, is really important for us to consider and think about.
Okay, very good. He posted a few other things as well, but I'm gonna come back. We have a question. Lori Jetter says, how do you make yourself a priority when everything else is also a priority? How do you balance that?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna say this, and this is very controversial when I say it. I don't believe in balance. Balance is something that I think we're all chasing, and we there's not many people I have met that know how to balance well, but we have to prioritize and harmonize. That's how I look at it, right? So everything is a priority, right? Everything is a priority, but can we prioritize to where we can reorganize some things in us that we can create a more harmonious life perspective for ourselves, right? So you have to sometimes choose you, right? And I think when we are could not say conditioned, but when we're conditioned to choose everything but ourselves, it seems like we're doing something wrong. And just like Dr. Sterling just said, if you don't put the mask on yourself first when the plane is going down, you cannot help the person to your left or to your right. Yeah. So you have to prioritize yourself in order to harmonize your life.
And I'm laughing briefly because I've seen that. She said, thank you. She said, it makes sense. I'm laughing because I've seen that demonstration so many times with the plane, and Lord willing, I'll be jumping on about 6 planes. I just don't know if there was a crisis, if I would remember the specifics of how to do it correctly. Because I'm that's in the last talk we had, I said I was gonna create a video when they do the demonstration, just in case, because you never know. But yeah, we have to apply the mask first. And while you guys are both talking, Corey George he said in their role as parents, abandoning their needs for ours, then we grow up thinking that that's how parenting should always grow up. So
right.
Kind of like modeling, social modeling.
Yeah, modeling, learn behaviors, things of that nature. But we see these type of things growing up, and we see these things that we may model. But what we may have the capacity to do as become more sound-minded, mature adults per se, is to understand if this isn't the best practices. Not saying what our parents did was incorrect, but is it the best practice for you, right? And if it's not the best practice for you, can we allow ourselves to modify and grow into a better behavior that's going to be beneficial for us, right? So I didn't know, I'm gonna pass it off to Dr. Sterling there, but I really, for me, it's just really us choosing us. Once we go back to choice, to new growth into new behaviors.
I think that social learning is so powerful and influential because we do pick up things from the way we see other people do it, and sometimes unwittingly we engage in those same behaviors until we recognize it's not healthy for us, and we have to ask ourselves, is this the best way for me to move forward? Is this the best way for me to care for myself? Working our fingers to the bone. I watched my grandmother, who was my primary caregiver for years, make a way out of no way. You understand what I'm saying? Like, my grandmother could stretch some things. She could make some things happen. You know what I'm saying? And so watching that and learning that, I pick up some of the same kind of behaviors, and kind of just normatively do that, right? And I think that we all do that to some degree until we can kind of take the time to be self-reflective and introspective when we reach that kind of burnout, or we're fatigued, or we're tired, or we stressed out, we anxious, depressed, because we're not doing things to kind of take care of ourselves, because we're stuck in that pattern and replaying that cycle that's just not healthy for us. And so we have to be just conscious of that and change that.
Okay. Now, thank you both for that very, very useful information and feedback. Now let's go to the book and the acronym. There's an acronym at the back of the book, represents the self-care core 4. The acronym is called RANHI, and again, this was birthed acronym and developed by Mr. Pernell Bush, and I actually utilized the acronym a few times and had people chant it at a few events, and there will be more. So we'll talk about that. Now, when we look at the first part, one of the items has to deal with rest. That's the R of the RANHI. Let's talk about how critical it is for people to rest, because rest can pertain to sleep, but it can also pertain to just pausing and doing nothing. And in the book, there's a section where I talk about rest as self-care. So let's talk about the importance of people. Let's talk about the R in the RANHI. Let's talk about rest. And you two also both being very busy professionals. What do you do to rest? What do you do to rest?
Great question.
Great. So I don't know about y'all, but I know sometimes in between clients, if I got a good portion of time, say about 15, 20 minutes, I turn off all the lights in my office. I pull off one of the pillows off my couch, and I lay right there in the middle of my floor. 20 minutes. I set my alarm for giving about 15 minutes. And sometimes just sitting still and allow my body, I may not go into a REM sleep, but that is a portion of rest, right?
Right.
Just letting my body sit still, not allowing my mind to be on 100 and jumping around, just being present right there and just breathing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one part of rest right there. Like I said, not that always have to be deep sleeps, but just those moments we take for ourselves.
Yeah, I do something very similar. If I have a tangible amount of time between clients, or if I have some administrative time, some downtime that I'm not actually doing any work, I might just step outside for a few minutes. We have a bench right outside, and I'll just go sit on a bench for a few minutes and just kind of be quiet and just listen. Sometimes it's listening to the wind blow. Sometimes it's listening to the students as they're walking across the yard. Sometimes it's listening to the birds. Just being present and being still for a moment can be a tremendous, refreshing, and reinvigorating time of self-care, and just being still. And so I use a similar kind of thing. I call that taking a vacation. I vacate my office, I vacate where I'm at, I vacate that environment so that I can refresh and replenish, and then I can come back and be present again with the next client that I'm working with.
Absolutely. Another therapist, Thomas Davis, said, "Good evening, sir."
What's happening, Thomas? What's happening?
What's happening, good brother?
And we got a comment concerning rest as well. Lori Jetta said, "Honestly, that's why I cruise a lot, because the relaxation of a cruise literally causes me to rest. It allows me to sit still."
Definitely. And another part of that rest is also understanding what our own personal, once again, very personal and subjective sleep hygiene is. Mm-hmm. Right. Sometimes I find people feel guilty, walking off. I don't get the 8 hours that's recommended for me. I don't do, but I'm like, what works for you? Right. And like, each one of our sleep hygiene is very different. Like my sleep hygiene, as long as I go to sleep around about 12 a.m., I'm up at 6 a.m., but I feel well rested. Mm-hmm. That works for me.
Yeah.
Where other individuals, they may have to go to sleep at 8 p.m. and wake up at 4 a.m. That works for them. So it's really being okay with whatever your sleep hygiene is as well.
Very much so. Very much so. I have a naturopathic doctor here in the DC region, and she had worked with me on fine-tuning some of my own self-care. And just for me, she was looking at my own sleep patterns, and she put in me the notion of and during the work week, this works pretty well. Kind of difficult for me on the weekends, but she put in the notion of me not go to sleep on the same day that I wake up. Not go to sleep on the same day that I wake up. So it's, like you said, Pernell said, different things work for different people. So most of the time, at least during the work week, I definitely go to bed before midnight. So, and because I get early too, sir.
The really interesting thing that I find, man, as I've gotten a little bit older, is kind of taking that little 15-minute, 20-minute siesta in the middle of the day.
Yes.
Yes. At lunchtime, I might just close the door, and for that 15, 20, I might not get on the floor, man.
Hey,
but I like that idea. I might just kind of kick back in my chair and just kind of doze off for about 10, 15 minutes. And, that helps, as we get older, we might have to find those places and spaces where we can engage in sleep, because I'm pretty much like you, Pernell. I'm down religiously about 12 o'clock, and then I'm back up at 6:30, and I'm good when I get out the door, but when I get to work, it's like, okay, whoa, wait a minute. I'm here, and then my brain does a thing, and then I come back alive about 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and then my lunch is at 1 or 2, and go down, and I'm back up. And so you're right, it's subjective. It depends on our own kind of rhythm and our own kind of pattern of sleep.
Absolutely. So thank you guys. So that's the R in the self-care core for the rest. The next item that we look at, and when I was coming up with the core 4 item, and I came across the Mr. Pernell here, like I said, the king of acronyms. I asked him to help me create a worthy acronym for and it worked out very well. So the A has to deal with being active or engaging in some type of movement. We know that exercise in general has been shown to have both great physical and psychological benefits. I beat this to death in the hearts and minds of all of my clients a lot.
Right.
And they receive it pretty greatly because they see me model it as well. Yeah. So both of you being very active. I see your Instagram's posts, your reels. I think, Pernell, you just figured out how to work a reel while you're in the gym.
Yeah. Hey, man, I was excited. I was very excited about that.
I see Dr. Sterling doing his various physical challenges and trying to get me and other people on board. No, sir. So when we talk about first, let's talk about what do you see as the physical and psychological benefits of movement, because that the movement has to do with the A in the acronym being active. So let's talk about the physical and psychological benefits of movement.
Yeah. For me, it takes me away. So, and it doesn't have necessarily. So I'm a weightlifter. I pick things up and I put things down. I enjoy that. But I enjoy physical fitness. And another one of the things, I was certified as a physical trainer. I really just enjoy the activity of doing the work. I think that it's such a tangible way of being engaging your body, your mind. Biologically, them endorphins start kicking in and keflin start kicking in. That natural feel good, kind of hormones start to increase. And so I think that it has significant psychological benefits, not just the physiological benefits. It's a way to kind of zone in and to kind of be present with yourself, and if you learn how to do some mindful lifting, you can be just very conscious of the work that you're doing. it can be a tremendous stress reliever, and engaging in self-care. One of the things that I just started doing was going to this place. It's called Stretch Columbia here in Columbia, South Carolina. Probably giving them a shout out, but let me tell you, when the young man stretched my hamstring, brother, I ain't never had my hamstring stretched like that before. And that was such a significant release. I mean, he stretched 5 muscles. I only thought there was one. It was 5, and I was like, oh wow. And when I walked away, I was lighter. I felt good. I felt more energized. And so, movement, can be anything from doing yoga, or stretching, or walking, or running, or weightlifting. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it just has tremendous positive kind of effects on us psychologically and physically.
Definitely. That action, man. I tell people taking action, because what I'm like Dr. Sterling. I like to go to the weight room, pick up heavy things and put them down, but that's not for everyone. You're right. I think right now I've been seeing a lot of things on social media where you see a lot of people going back to the skating rinks now, and you see them in action, they're in movement, they're moving their body. I know I was just doing some study on Alzheimer's disease. They say one of the best things that you can possibly do while you're young is actually like dancing, right? Because you have to memorize steps and things that nature that actually helps with brain memory. So really just getting in action, getting moving, and that does a lot for us from a social, emotional, psychological standpoint.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, I knew I had, like I said, I knew I had the right 2 people tonight to discuss this subject. I think we have a comment. Let me see.
Yeah.
Lori Jetter says she's tried Bikram hot yoga.
Listen, Lori.
Hey, yoga. Yoga.
Hot yoga.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not brave enough for hot yoga just yet. Not brave enough just yet. But I have done yoga. I did a whole weekend retreat of yoga. That was my first time. And I tell you what, man, I have much more a profound respect for those who engage in yoga on a consistent basis.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Once years ago, but I would, just for the challenge and the event. I like adventure, so I like adventure, so I may try it. The hot yoga once.
It's hot, bruh. It's hot. I mean, like hot. I mean, like hot.
That's real.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's getting active in some sort of movement, has a whole lot of benefits, and it looks different for different people. She said, imagine doing yoga in a sauna setting, 105 heat.
Yeah.
You do it for 3 minutes. So, we just try it out.
Dion, I'm trying to tell you, hey, try downward facing dog, in that 105 degrees, sweat dripping in your eyes, you can barely breathe. I'm talking about that's hot, brother.
Okay, got you.
That's
how many times have you done it?
I did it once and it was like
I did it once. Hey.
And
it's worth a try though. It's worth a try. It ain't for everybody.
Right. Different types of movement, getting active affects different people. Some people like various types. You both are into lifting weights. Some people like yoga, Zumba. It's cycling. There's a lot of different types of. We talk about the A in being active, right? Getting active. So the next part of the acronym, the N, has to deal with, and I'm skipping around a little bit, has to deal with nutrition. Now we know today there's a whole lot of people looking at, in various ways, eating patterns, eating plans, various meal preps, ways to eat, diet plans, etc. Let's talk about nutrition and what that does to a person as far as their own self-care. maybe how it affects their mood and wellness, because some people have good nutrition and some people have very poor nutrition. So, and you both are free to speak freely about your own nutrition too, if you like, because you're both in pretty good shape. So I will assume your nutrition is usually on point. Okay, this
It depends, man. It depends. You know, I've started. I used to be very strict about nutrition, and I still am to some degree. I try to use an 80 kind of 20 rule. 80% healthy, 20%. Not the best. But for the most part, and this may speak to the next part of the acronym, but staying hydrated. Getting a good amount of water in you, eating your vegetables, your green leafy vegetables, trying to stay away from sugars, is really important. Trying to do the healthy carbohydrates, like a brown rice or a sweet potato, lean protein, if you will. I think that, you have to kind of, again, understand your body too, and how your body responds. I know the difference how my body responds when I sit down and I eat pizza, and it's not just a slice. It might be the whole pie, which might not be the best thing, but it tastes good,
Absolutely.
But I probably shouldn't eat the whole pie. I probably should eat maybe a slice, and then maybe another slice later, and then maybe another slice later, or 2 slices max, or whatever the case may be, to kind of have balance. And so I just think it differs, and it differs where you're at. I think in terms of what your body goals are. If you have body goals or weight goals or whatever the case may be. I enjoy eating my Doritos. I enjoy eating gummy bears, and so that's my cheat on a weekend. And so
let's, the gut brain connection is something that I normally think of when I think about nutrition.
Yeah.
And I can't say I'm the best when it comes to nutrition, man. I'm a country boy down here, man. So soul food cooking and all that. I'm diving in head first. I try to balance that with my active lifestyle.
Right.
And then also, throughout the week, throughout Monday through Friday, I do Monday through Thursday. I'm not gonna say Monday through Friday because Friday it's out the window. Yeah. But Monday through Thursday, I do my best to be very disciplined. Not really disciplined, but it's just a lifestyle for me. Like I wake up, I eat the same thing pretty much throughout the week, which kind of helps me maintain a level of healthiness, because I wake up, I eat my 3 packs of oatmeal, I have a protein shake later, and then for lunch I'm probably gonna get some Pollo Tropical with the half chicken, brown rice, black beans, and then for dinner I know each day of the week is gonna represent something different. So I'm very consistent there. The only trouble I have with my nutrition sometimes is the women I date, and they be like, I'm tired of eating the same things. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. It works. It works. It works for me. But no, just really, as Dr. Sterling stated, is, what are you attempting to do with your body?
Right.
And then oftentimes we have to make sure we know our numbers. I tell people, man, go to your primary care physician or go get your yearly physical and get your blood work done. Know your numbers, because we can look good on the outside, but the numbers may be off sometimes, and we may have to adjust our nutrition to improve that.
And so, Pernell, I appreciate you saying that, because I was feeling pretty good, but then when I saw that high cholesterol, I said, "Whoa!" I said, "Okay, that HDL was a little too high," and so I worked to get it down, and so just that's so important, going to the doctor, and really getting those numbers and understanding what those numbers mean, and then doing the level best to eat as healthy as you can to reduce those numbers. So I appreciate you sharing that.
So what we eat, what we put in our bodies affect us physically and our mood, right? Affects how we. That's why we have this whole phenomenon of emotional eating. I talk about my own personal struggle with self-care in this area in my book. But in 2020, I was during the height of the pandemic, and the gyms were closed for about 4 months. I was in the house, seeing clients eating pizza. We have this great phenomenon here. If you ever here and you have a cheat moment, there's nothing really like a Baltimore chicken box. And yeah, was eating Baltimore chicken box for the 4 wings and fries, particularly with the Old Bay seasoning. Yes, so we
Old Bay. Old Bay on the chicken box. Okay, all right. Okay,
absolutely.
All right.
We were eating a lot of that type of food, and in the heart of 2020, I was 57 pounds heavier than I am now.
Wow.
Yeah, I made a conscious, intentional, deliberate decision to get into a meal prep program and hire a health coach trainer. So so my problem was this area, nutrition, what I eat, because I love to eat good food, but I really love to eat good desserts, Dr. Sterling. So sugar became my enemy.
Sugar is
I will bypass very good food for very good dessert.
Yeah. You gotta stick clear of that stuff, bro. That sugar will get you every time. And you know, the thing about sugar is that it's like, you know, our bodies crave it, you know. It's so interesting that when we start eating sugar, we want more of it and more of it and more of it and more of it. And so, you know, I do my level best when my daughter isn't here visiting to try to keep all kinds of candies and all kinds of sugars and all kinds of cakes and stuff, you know, away. My partner, she loves cakes and she loves cupcakes, and so she'll bring cupcakes, and you know, that'll be the downfall. So Dion, you're not by yourself. I won't lie and say I didn't eat this German chocolate cake last night. It was delicious. It was from, you know, my favorite bakery, her family bakery, Cakes L'Amour here in Columbia, South Carolina, and it's my favorite. And so, yeah.
Please don't call out any dessert place.
Hey, look! You finna have Dion go do some Google search real quick.
In your respective states, because I'm a traveler. Please don't call out any dessert names. We have a place here, Black owned and operated in PG County, Maryland, where I'm in the office right now. Here, we have a place called Sugar Vaults, and they are on Sugar Vaults.
Sugar Vault,
like a bank vault.
Wow.
Black owned and operated. They're on IG. If you look, you will turn your face away from the pictures. They are very addictive, but they're about 40 miles out from my house, so I don't have a struggle. If they were close concerning nutrition, I'd be in trouble. But you know, another Baltimore individual did comment when I mentioned the chicken box with the Old Bay seasoning. They said with salt, pepper, and ketchup. So yeah, nutrition is important. And one of the things that I emphasize with my clients who struggle with nutrition and what they eat is not necessarily elimination of those things, but let's minimize and decrease that, especially if they are dealing with self-confidence and self-esteem issues because of their physique or the way that the food makes them feel, right? That's important. Now, one of the important things that a lot of people wrestle and struggle with concerning where activity level or movement and nutrition intersect, and we hear this a lot in our culture and society. How healthy is it or not if individuals have very good movement but poor nutrition? Does it matter? Can one cancel out the other?
You know, I'm not a MD. You know, I'm not a nutritionist, so I don't want to say it can. But however, I want to say that, you know, from a lack of better terms right now, common sense perspective, I do believe it cancels one out. You know, you can be on the move, but if your nutrition isn't good, like we go to the gym, when I lift weights, if I don't eat properly after, you know, after my muscle has broken down, I won't heal properly.
Right.
Okay. Right. It'll actually, you know, interrupt the building of the muscle if I don't have the proper nutrition.
Yeah. I'd agree. I think that it depends on again, some folks, biologically and genetically may be able to eat junk food and work out and build muscle if that's their goal, but I think that over the course of time, man, our bodies taking in all of that, let's say, high cholesterol, taking in, a lot of sugar, taking in a lot of, just unhealthy, unhealthy carbohydrates. We talked about the cakes and the cookies and all of that. That got all of that stuff in it. I mean, it tastes good, and most of the time we like to eat for comfort. We like to eat for entertainment versus eating, for fuel, to fuel our bodies. You know what I mean? And so I think that we have to just be very conscious about eating poorly, with the expectation that our exercise is going to cancel it out. I think that we have to kind of find the balance. And I know that that's sometimes really difficult to do, and that's why I use kind of like this 80-20 rule. If I'm going to eat healthy 80% of the time, then 20% of the time I'm going to be able to do some of the things that, I might want to do. And so like the other night I ate this cake, because I had did relatively well during the day. I said I'm gonna treat myself, and I went really hard in the gym, and so I kind of was like zoned in that day, and so.
Gotcha. Yep. Lori Jetta comment again. I think it does because all the exercising you're doing is canceled by the diet. I guess it depends upon how bad and off the person's diet is. Yeah. Pernell, my health coach trainer, he must be tied up because I'm sure he would have tuned in already tonight for this because he was a Marine veteran as well. So he is very hardcore. I have to submit to him every day my food diary, what I eat. But and he's an interesting character. Let me just say that. But
he's an interesting character.
That's the nicest. We've gone at it for sure. But it has really helped me take a closer look at what I eat, how much, moderation. I think I was out of town one day, and I said I was in New York when I went to the Black Men's Health Conference that Aaron Mueller did in New York. And I went there and I stayed the weekend after that day. And me and the guys that went, we ate at a nice soul foods place in New York called Melba's. But I sent him a text and I said, I'm going to have a cheat meal tonight when I go to the soul food restaurant. And he said, okay, that's fine. Okay. As long as you are aware, me being aware of how it may potentially throw my numbers off because I weigh in. We have me on a trajectory. I'm about 16 pounds away from my goal weight.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's why he said as long as you're aware of But I told him, So.
Yeah. I used to be like that with the folks that I would train. They would be so mad at me. Like, do you know what that chicken wing is going to do? Now I'm the one who eating the chicken wings. They talk about me bad now. But when you have goals, right, and your healthy goals and nutrition is a part of it, we just have to be conscious of it, and kind of do the best we can to, again, find that balance.
Yep. So with the acronym, with the RANHI, we have the rest, the activity level, the nutrition, and lastly, the HY. The HY stands for hydration. There you go. Hydration. And in this context, even though some people do drink, I'm a coffee drinker. That's the only addiction I'll admit to. I'm a coffee drinker. Some people drink tea. Some people drink alcohol. But the hydration in the book is referring to water. That's the hydration I'm referring to. and sometimes people hydration level is pretty low.
Yeah.
When I'm focused, I typically drink. It causes me to go to the bathroom quite a bit, but I typically drink about 1.5 gallons a day.
Good.
That's the goal for me usually. Sometimes I make the mark, and sometimes I come slightly below the mark. But let's talk about that's the H in the acronym hydration. What benefits do we notice from consuming water? And I think you both kind of concentrated and intentional about your hydration intake. What benefits do we notice from it?
Man, hydration is probably one of the most important things for me when it comes to. I drink water all day. Like that's the first thing I drink when I wake up. Probably the last thing I drink before I go to bed. But I definitely try to consume 1 gallon of water a day. I see that Ms. Jeter put that you're supposed to drink half your body weight in ounces in water, and that's something I firmly believe in. When I was a personal trainer, I used to tell all my clients that let's take your body weight divided by 2. That's the minimum, and then if you're active, we have to add on some more if you're active, right? But hydration, I can't push it and promote it enough. And it's sometimes very interesting to me. I meet people like, oh man, I don't hydrate like that. I don't like water. I don't like the taste of it. And I'm like, it don't even have a taste. Right? Like, it's always interesting. But water, hydration, within itself is our body. Our body's what, 70% water? I don't know the numbers on top of my head, but it's like 70% water.
It's high.
Right. So it's like we're made up of mostly water. Our cells need to be refilled and be rehydrated. And I think a lot of times I meet people who are afraid to drink water now because they get so many different water options. Should I drink alkaline water? Should I drink spring water, purified water? And I'm like, yo, just drink some water.
Right.
Once upon a time, before all these labels came out, people were just drinking water.
We used to drink. Y'all remember when we couldn't come inside and we had to go outside? And there was that little water hose.
Oh, hey, and it was the best one you ever had. The best one, but
you ever had. Oh, it was. That was, and it seemed like it had a great taste to it. Also,
it had a great taste to it. Yeah, I mean, drinking water is so important, Dion. I cannot. And I can't lie and say that I have been getting my gallon, so I try to make sure that I get at least a good 62 to a gallon, 62 ounces to a gallon.
Yeah.
On my best days, and I probably actually drink a gallon because I'm drinking bottles of water constantly. Similar to what Brother Purnell said, I might drink one bottle of water when I get up before I have my coffee, because I drink coffee too. That's my thing. And then drinking water throughout the day, drinking protein and water, and then drinking it at the gym, consistently, and then when I get home, don't drink a whole lot of pop or a whole lot of soda. Again, that may be like, I might have a Coca-Cola every 2 weeks or so at this point. During the pandemic, it was a little different. But I think hydration is just so important. And so I agree with everything that you brothers are saying.
Yeah.
One of the things I've noticed concerning hydration. Go ahead.
What I was going to say, what I do notice, my church, we do we do a fast or a progressive fast every September and every January. And one of the first things that goes is coffee for me. And so I notice when I stop the coffee and I start increasing my water intake, I'm much more clearer, I'm much more quicker, so there is it seems like there is some cognitive benefit, even though, my brain is trained to, when I have that coffee, like, oh, it's time to go. But titrating down from drinking the coffee and drinking more water, I noticed that I'm a little bit more present. My cognitive skills and abilities are on point without the use of coffee or caffeine. So
one of the things I've noticed is concerning hydration, the ability to hydrate on a regular basis. It is very difficult for me to hydrate if I'm on the move. If I'm driving somewhere, or if I'm it's hard for me, at least it's hard to hydrate if I'm not stationary. If like a weekend, if I'm moving around quite a bit, my water intake is in the toilet. I don't know if you guys have that experience.
Could it be subconsciously that you don't want to take your water with you because while you're on the move, you may have to use the bathroom a lot? You trying to stop that from possibly happening? You know what I mean? Because me, when I'm driving, that's where I get the most water in. Cause I got my gallon, I just grab by the handle and I'm hitting it. You right?
Oh wow!
You know, but well, I know it does impede upon our actions sometimes when we got to stop and go utilize the restroom.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the thing with that too is what if you're going to like 6 or 7 different spots like you're doing it? So you're doing chores. Then in a lot of it's gotten better now, but during the heart of the pandemic, a lot of places weren't letting you use their restroom.
Right.
So that probably made it. Now, I mean, it may be different now, but that's an interesting point. Yeah, you probably. I mean, it would definitely be an inconvenience to keep stopping to go to it. That's a good point. So you get in more water when you're driving, huh?
Yeah.
Take your water with you, man.
Gotta take it with you, man. Gotta take it with you. You know, you might want to order you a camel pack, man. You know, that's what we had in the Marine Corps. We had our little camel packs that we put on our bag, and we had the little holes. We sipping and moving, sipping and walking.
Oh, okay. You would stop even if it's like a long highway ride.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, you know, we got it easier than women. Listen, I just got to pull over real quick. I'm going to jump out of these bushes real quick and get back in, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did see that with a guy who doesn't look like us the other day, but he wasn't hidden at all on the high. I mean, it was very visible. But
you know, do your best to try to have common courtesy for the other passerbys. You know what I mean? If you got to utilize your doors at a certain angle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Open up
the doors weren't used. The trunk, nothing was used. We were like, you got to be kidding me. It was just So okay. I learned something. I will intentionally put forth some effort on days that I have to
move around. Yeah, they got to move around trout, man.
One of the things, Dion, I think that you'll find, is that if you drink water, like certain periods of the time of day, that you start to regulate the times at which you're going to have to use the restroom, right? And so you're able to almost predict, when you have to use the restroom, or make sure you use the restroom before you leave, to go anywhere, and that kind of cuts down on that. But if you start a regular pattern, of like, so if I drink my water in the morning and then I have my coffee, I know as soon as I get to the office that I'm going to the restroom before I do anything else, and then, throughout the day, you just learn how to pick your points and knowing your body, that kind of reduces, kind of the anxiety or fear of having to kind of break to go use the restroom because, kind of, your pattern.
Very true. So all 4 of the good stuff. All 4 of these items, the rest, the activity level, the nutrition, and the hydration. That's how we have the acronym RANHI. We're gonna close, but I'm curious, and this will be able to be seen on my Facebook Live page as well as YouTube. Pernell, when I gave you the items that I wanted to include in this self-care core 4, did the labeling of the acronym just kind of fall upon you suddenly, or was there certain things you started thinking about?
First thing I always think about when I think about an acronym is something that can be chanted, dog. Something that's easy for people to just remember. So, when you first sent it to me, I think you had like sleep and exercise, and I replaced both of those words. I replaced the sleep with rest. I think the exercise with activity, right, or action, something like that.
Yep.
So I'm like, and then as I'm looking at all 4 of the words, when I put from rest, activity, nutrition, and hydration, I'm like, all right, ran high. So I come from the coach of Lil Jon, back in the day, Lil Jon, all his music, you just kind of repeat the words, be ya, you know what I mean? So I was like, all right, bet. So my thought process, I was envisioning you speaking on this, and how could you get the audience to remember this? And so for me, I'm like, ran high. Yeah, so now that's stuck in people's head. Either they don't remember the exact rest, but it's now ran high is with them. And that's how it really came down to. So anytime I create an acronym, that's what I'm thinking about, man.
Good. Nice. That's why I gave you that title. I gave you.
Man, but I'm glad that it's working out for you, bro, and I'm glad you got people chanting it. See, so that's why I was visualizing, like when you got there, you're doing your speaking tour. I was like, how are you gonna get people to repeat this after you?
Absolutely,
and something that's very easy to come off the tongue.
Absolutely, and I guess you probably seen I did give you credit in the book as well for the
and I appreciate that, man. Appreciate it.
Like, so people know I didn't create this. This acronym was not my baby. The content of what I want to include it, great, but the acronym wasn't. Yeah, no, you're welcome. Thank you.
I appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. No, but I'm glad it's working out, man. That's exactly what I envisioned for it when you reached out to me. D, like, hey, man, I see you good with acronyms. Hey, can you help me out here? I said, all right, bro, give me about 24 hours. Let me see what I can do with it.
Yeah.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great.
Yeah.
It was good stuff. All right, gentlemen. So we are at our time. This has been very useful and informative. We're going to close, and I'm going to ask you both to just share with our listening audience and people who are going to watch the replay and on YouTube, anything about the Self-Care Core 4 you want to share with our audience, as well as ways that they can connect with you or contact you if you want them to do that. So
definitely, man. You guys can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook as Pernell Bush. And then on IG, you can find me as the Juggernaut _therapist. The Juggernaut _therapist. And overall, man, I love this ran high. I love this rest, activity, nutrition, hydration. This is something that we all need as just human beings. We got to make sure we have a good sleep hygiene. We got to make sure that we're being active. We have to have proper nutrition and staying hydrated. So, D, I love what you have done with this book, man. And I just look forward to see how far this goes.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll just echo that, man. I do appreciate, the text, because I think it's straightforward, it's clear, it's concise. And I think that a lot of times as clinicians, we can make things bigger, and I think that having a text that speaks directly to engaging in self-care in a way that is non-negotiable is so important. So I appreciate the acronym. I'm definitely going to use that. I like acronyms too. I like alliteration. It just makes things easy for me to kind of remember. And so, I'll definitely remember ran high. I think that rest is so important, and we don't do a whole lot of that. So we have to take time to rest. It doesn't always mean sleep. Sometimes it just means slow down, just pause, be still, just chill, don't do nothing, just be still. And so I love the idea of just kind of being present, present in the pause, you know what I mean? And allowing ourselves to utilize the skills that you are teaching us and encouraging us to use. That's the pause. Right? Allowing ourselves to just be present, right? And allow ourselves to utilize the skills that Dion is encouraging us to do. Did you get the pause? I hope y'all got the pause. I'm doing it for y'all, right? What I'm trying to say is this, right? Is that we have to learn how to just pause, right? And what this text does is it puts us in position to have a perspective, right, that allows us to utilize the skills that you've encouraged us to use. So, again, my name's Dr. Watson. You can find me, my professional IG page is Dr.S. P. Watson. I'm on LinkedIn somewhere, but I haven't really used LinkedIn as much as I used to. So that IG platform is probably the best way to catch me. So
Yeah.
Great. I'm going to close. I'm going to ask you, gentlemen, just to hold back for a second. We want to thank all of our listening audience and those who are going to watch the replay on YouTube or Facebook. This has been our final installment for our virtual book tour of Non-Negotiable Self-Care, discussing the Self-Care Core 4. You will be able to go to my YouTube page, YouTube DMV Therapist, to see each and every episode and installment of the virtual book tour with our various guests addressing all aspects of self-care. We want to thank everyone for tuning in during this journey and joining with us and sharing questions, discussions, dialogue. And we hope that everyone have a wonderful night and great week. Good night.